action. We've all heard the word. It inspires in you. It's a verb. We're getting up. We're moving. We're doing things. Taking action in media training is what I want you to do for yourself so that you can do it for your community. All right? And just housekeeping, I've put the hashtags at the bottom and the Twitter ID and all of that so you can utilize that all the way through. But if you don't want it tweaked, great. Your eyes up here and we're going to dig in. It'll be fun. Now, ACTION is an acronym because I'm a big fan of them because I work with children and I find it's a lot easier. And I'm not going to put it to music today, but maybe later. So, with ACTION, the very first thing that comes to mind in ACTION is A for appearance. Now, appearance, as we all think about, is what are we wearing? How do we look? Do we look cute? But if you watch any of my videos on my MissLori.tv YouTube channel, you will find that I don't always look cute. And I don't always have my spackle on. Because it's not about looking good. It's looking recognizable. Does your community recognize you? So we want to make sure that with our appearance, that people can recognize our content, that they can recognize our voice, in general, that they recognize you. Now, what you wear is important, but it's important to how you structure your brand. It's not about pro forma, this is what you must have. However, when you're creating your look, on top of thinking about who you are to your community, you also want to think about, well, what's going to give me the most pop when I show up on a camera? So you do need to think about some of those technical aspects. And in that respect, please don't wear black. Please, I beg of you. Don't wear black on camera. Don't do it, it washes you away. You know the reason that all of the perfume girls in Macy's are wearing black is because they're supposed to disappear. Why does the waitstaff at your fancy restaurant or at a banquet, why do they wear black? Because they're supposed to disappear. Don't disappear from your community. Not saying you can't have your little black dress or your wonderful black suit that you have in your everyday life. But when you go on camera, don't wear black. And I personally would say, don't wear black when you're walking an expo. Don't wear black when you're looking to network. Because again, you disappear. Not only do you disappear, you are taking all the light off your face. Because when you put on black, there's nothing to bounce up and give you light in your face. Nothing at all. In fact, you're just sucking all right up. So when you think about the clothes that you get, whether it be to interact with people or to interact on film, stay away from black and instead go for something that's going to give you a little pop. Now, another way you can get a pop aside from your clothes is old-fashioned bounce card. Now this is just construction paper poster board. But when we were modeling way back in the day, we would, and I'm staying in front of my slide, sorry about that, but we would use this to capture a light and give us a bounce. And it gives us a bounce on our face. So if you are shooting at home, you can go by your window and you can employ your children if you're like me. They have to earn their keep. So they'll hold up a bounce card for not getting enough light that day. And they'll maneuver it and they'll get a pop. And even in this room with this horrible light, you can see a difference.
Oh, yeah.
You see the difference that's happening?
Now, where did you get that paper?
This is from Walgreens. This is poster board. All it is. And you can see that. Do you notice that even in your eyes? It's popping you up, isn't it? Is everybody seeing that? That's happening now. Let's give you a bounce. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting. Come on, baby. Look at that. That's fabulous.
Get rid of kind of the black under your, you know how you get the shadowy?
It will help. In here, I'll pass it around. You can all take a little gander if you like. Go ahead, be bouncy. I told you this was interactive. Then you all can pass it around here and get a feel for it. You want to get comfortable with that. You want to know what that looks like. You get a little bounce. White. You want white. You want to use that? It's a flat white that doesn't have a gloss to it. But you want to stay white because if you go beige, you're not getting as much of the pop. Okay. So you use white, and it's just any old white paper. But you want to have it to be spatially bigger than an 8.5 by 11 because you're not going to get the full effect around your face. So you do want it to be bigger. That's a good size. It's very easy to use. You can get something that's sturdier if your kids tend to flop, because you don't want to have that. You can get something that is a poster board that has a backing, and that will work. And that's all any modeling company, when they're starting, that's all they're doing. When they're out and they're shooting models, they've got a bounce card. And so now you can have one of your own and give yourself a bounce. Now, because that is white and you saw what happened with it, that's the reason why you shouldn't wear white on camera. Now, you want to get a bounce from the card, but if you wear white on camera, especially with our HD cameras that are now very commonplace, you're going to burn out the camera. So when you go to an interview, you'll see with other cameras, they'll do a white balance. And if you are becoming that white balance, everything's going to go askew. All right, so it doesn't work on your body, but it works for your face as an outside source. Another thing you want to be careful of, really big patterns. Keep the big flowers at home. Don't put them on, because it's distracting. And with HD also, you'll get a lot of vibration. The colors start to, you really don't want that for you. You'd really rather have somebody looking at your face and not going, why is that doing that? So with big patterns, you can have something, I have a collage going on here. It's something that I could wear on camera. Most likely I wouldn't, because I tend to go with primary colors, with just a flat color that will give me a reflection. Part of that has to do with my brand, and we talked about that at the beginning. You need to understand who you are in your brand and make sure that you're reflecting that, literally and figuratively, in what you wear. And not just in what you wear. The overall theme for this in taking action is going to be about marrying your inner intent with your outward projection. And that's a part of your appearance as well. And when I say marrying your inner intent, I'm talking about when you get down to the nitty-gritty. Who are you? Who is your brand? What is your blog, your community, your job? What is it? People are asking you that all up and down the station here. All the Expo. First thing they say, hi, nice to meet you. So what do you do? And if you can't allow that to roll off your tongue, you need to go back and do a little more research on yourself. And that's okay, because we are in the Wild West right now. All of you are pioneers. You're all pioneers, so it's constantly changing. My answer to those questions has changed since last month, because I took on another job, and so I had to fold that in to explain to people what it is that I do. So don't feel uncomfortable that it is an evolving property. That's okay. In fact, that's even better, because if it's evolving, that means you're adding to your cachet of who you are and what you do. And that generally is a good thing. But you have to do the research, because if you don't, someone else is going to decide for you. And usually that's not in the direction that you're hoping for. I'm guessing you didn't get into business to be led by the nose. You went into business as an entrepreneur so that you could forge your own path. So don't surrender the very essence of who you are to what somebody else decides on a whim. Take the time and marry that with what people see. What people see in your outfit. What people see when they bring up the screen of your website. What people see in your correspondence with them. Your YouTube page, your Twitter avatar. Make sure that it resonates with who you are and what you do. That appearance is a through line that goes all the way through, not just with your clothes. It goes deeper. And I want to make sure that you're digging into that. With the avatar mention, please don't put a picture where you're looking down at the ground. Please don't look off to the side. Please don't cover your face. Please, please, please. Because when you go to a conference, how many of you out there didn't know the name of the person, are kind of trying to make the connection with their Twitter ID and what you remember of their avatar? And if you're looking for that face, but there is no face in the avatar, you're looking for no one. You want to be identifiable. That, again, is part of your appearance. Moving on. C is for clarity. Clarity. Again, going back to that overarching lesson, marrying your inner intent with your outward projection. How can you do that? You've got to be clear on who you are. You've got to be clear on what you're doing. You've got to be clear on the audience that you're aiming for, the community, the target market. All of that starts with you. It starts with you. So you have to do the research on it. You have to make sure that you have clarity of thought, clarity of intention, and clarity of objective. If you aren't clear, your audience has no clue what you're asking of them, so how could they possibly deliver for you? We're all moving fast. We got stuff to do. You know, we're trying to read things, we're trying to get going, but if I don't know what you want, then I can't do it. I can't do it. You have to recognize that your audience has constraints on their time. They're bugging out because they've got to pick up kids here, or they've got to go run a business over there, and they've got to do this, that, and whatever. If you are not clear in your ask, in what you're doing, whether it's a call to action through a blog post with a picture accompanying it, or a call to action through a video, or a call to action through a survey, or through a tweet, if you aren't clear, they just are going to ignore you and move on to somebody who is. So dig into that clarity. Now, as far as clarity goes on camera, if you're giving an interview or talking to someone in person, you need to rehearse. And then you need to rehearse. And then you need to rehearse. Because you haven't been doing this your whole life. You have not been doing this moment, this thing, your whole life. This is new. You're out there forging in the Wild West. There is no shame in rehearsing. In fact, there's a great deal of pride in it. And the best thing about it, nobody has to see it. No one, no one, no one. You all have some sort of camera. You've got either a camera on your phone, you've got a camera in your bag, you've got a camera with your photography camera, also takes videos, you've got your laptop or your tablet, something takes videos, I guarantee. Use it. Don't post it, just use it. Take that camera, pick it up, put it into your hand, turn it on, and talk. Talk. Now, if that is too fast for some people, and it can be, that's all right. Then, you know what this is? Your best friend. This is your best friend. And you need to make, hi, nice to see you again. You need to make friends with your image and your reflection. We need to do all of that. Where's my other? We're going to do that now. I want you all to say hello and make friends with your reflection. Oh, yeah. Take it. Go ahead. No. Take it from me. You pass it on. Make some friends. Look at it. Take a good look. Don't throw it the next direction. Take a look. Don't run, because that person will still be there. Even when the mirror moves on, that person will still be there. You cannot run from yourself. You need to look at that reflection, because so many people, they pass a mirror and they're like, really? I get having a bad hair day. I get feeling like you need to lose a few pounds. I get all of that. None of that matters, because you're not looking at yourself for a date. You are looking at yourself as a tool that's a part of your brand, a part of the business that you're wanting to have be successful. And you are at the center of that. Even if you are not someone who is videotaping and putting out content where you're doing the interview, even if you're behind the scenes and running the business, I know you still have to go sell your business to someone. You still have to put yourself in front of someone. So you need to look at that mess, thank you, and make those friends. Did everybody look? You have to make that friend. And again, nobody has to be around. You can talk to the mirror. Nobody has to be anywhere. In fact, it's better if they're not. Get yourself comfortable, talk. Look in, check different angles. Figure out, do I like myself head on? Or when I'm talking, do I think it's better if I give a little lead in? What does it look like each way? Before I go to a conference, if I've got an outfit on, I know there's some angles that are not the best, like, oh, I don't know, turning my ass to the camera and bending over. It's probably not the best thing to do. But I practice, even at this point. I know certain things about where my body, how I can settle into something, and it will work because I've been doing this a long time. But I still take a look in the mirror and go, okay, now if I'm going to be talking, if I do an interview today, which I have several this afternoon, if I do that, and I'm in this outfit, what does it look like when I'm sitting? What does it look like when I'm standing? Because I don't want to be thinking about that when I'm doing it. So I want to have rehearsed it so that it becomes automatic pilot. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Now you can engage your friend. After you get comfortable with that image, with looking in the mirror or videotaping yourself, go ahead and bring somebody on. Bring a friend who's very kind to you, or bring a friend who's brutal to you. Either way, you're going to gain from it. Bring them on, and from an interview standpoint, have them lob some questions at you. Have them ask you questions, videotape it, so that you can see how you do. If you got a lot of ums, you're looking down at the ground, what do you do with those uncomfortable moments when you can't quite remember what you're, because I'm 41, I can't even remember my middle name sometimes, so I have to figure out what it is that I do for those moments when I'm collecting my thoughts. When I'm collecting my thoughts, I will look down and then come up. I will make an adjustment in my body. I have found ways to give myself room and time without going, I don't have to do that. I give myself time. I slow my breathing. I gather my thoughts. But I get that because I've been practicing. So go ahead and practice through some of those uncomfortable moments. Videotape, 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 videotape. Even if you don't anticipate doing an on-camera interview, the videotape is so that you know what the heck you look like when you're talking. Do I hang my mouth open? Do I constantly pull up my hair? You've got a lot of unconscious habits that you aren't aware of, hence unconscious. So you want to make sure that you bring them to the forefront. So again, what do we need to do? Reverse. And we're going to videotape it too. Awesome. Now, next, timing. Oh, in this 140 character world, my goodness gracious. Used to be we could take a little moment, we could get to know you, talk a little bit, back and forth. Now, what do you do? Okay, great, see you. Moving on. It's very hard to communicate with a pace that feels comfortable and human in a world that's moving at the pace of a computer. It's very hard, but oh well, that's what we got. So we have to find a way to move within it. So being aware of your timing is key. If you are dealing with timing in a video, you're creating a vlog, anything, the first 3 to 4 seconds, crazy, 3 to 4 seconds, people are deciding whether to click away. I used to, when I was creating videos when I first started, I used to have my intro, had my website come up, and I took all this time to make my editing, and then I realized nobody had even gotten to the content because I was wasting all these seconds on this intro. And if you notice in primetime television, what happened to the intro? Where is it? Gone. It's either gone or it's after a big scene that grabs your attention. And then it's about that long. We've recognized that the attention span of our audience, they have so much to choose from, that they don't need to sit there and be wooed. You have to hit them over the head right away, and then they'll decide if they're going to stay. So those first 3 to 4 seconds, you have to make sure you are letting your audience know that you are worth sticking with. And then you can take some time to luxuriate it. Once you got them, they'll stay. Those 3 to 4 seconds are important. But Luxuriate only for about 90 more seconds because you want to keep your video under 2 minutes. And if you have a video that's longer, and I certainly have posted videos that are longer because it's a longer event, those things, they exist because they're within the context of something. And generally, if someone is going to tune in and they want to see your speech and they know it's 45 minutes and you've got a 20-minute cut, they're there because they want to be. So that's not the video that I'm talking about. I'm talking about those videos that you're making either for humor, or you're making it as a PSA, or you're making it an answer to a question or a call to action. Keep them under 2 minutes because people got stuff to do. And you can have a series. You can have part 1 of 4. That's fine. But again, just because it's a part of a series, that doesn't mean that those first 3 to 4 seconds on each one of those levels are not still vital. So you have to look at each of those individuals as an individual beginning, middle, end, even though it's part of an overarching series. But that is still possible. So you have room to still be creative, but just those benchmarks of all things with video, you can stick with those 2 things that are going to be important. Did you have a question?
Yeah, do you accept questions,
I do, but they want you to put it on because we're not videotaping. So if you can stand up at the mic, that would be
I'll
awesome.
talk loud, how about that?
You'll talk with your diaphragm.
Yeah, I'll stand up. What's the shortest amount of a video you would want to do?
Well, it depends on your content, but I have seen 15 seconds grab. 5 seconds, people are throwing things up on Twitter. Sometimes you'll see a 5-second video. Unless you're making an amazing basketball shot, not usually. So 15 seconds gives the brain an opportunity to process the information. Because we got to think about that. Our brains are moving, but they are not moving at the speed of the computer. So we do need to allow those frames to register. That's the whole reason on the sidebar with the whole thing with SpongeBob SquarePants, why they were saying that it was difficult, although frankly you shouldn't be showing SpongeBob to a 4-year-old, but that's aside from the point. They were saying that it was dangerous for children because they were having difficulty processing the information. What that is akin to is that strobe lights will sometimes cause epileptic seizures in people who are prone to it because the brain doesn't have the opportunity to process all the information. So when you're creating your video with that 15 seconds, if it's going to be short, you want to make sure that you've given your audience the opportunity to process the information. So don't try to jam in 2 minutes worth of content into 15 seconds. If you have one presence of thought, one thing you wanted to communicate, that would be fine in keeping it short. Also with timing, interviews. Have you ever seen an interview on the news where all of a sudden someone was like in the middle of a sentence and they cut away? It's because that person wasn't clear on their timing. And so their answer was so long that they had to make a crude cut, and then that person just looks like they didn't have a good thought. You need to be aware of your timing. On an interview, if it's an evergreen piece or something that they're going to put together later, you may not know at the forefront whether it's going to be a quick 30-second piece or if it's going to be a longer sustaining piece that's going to go as long as 2 minutes. You may not know. So with that in mind, you want to make sure that you're offering content in the course of that interview that will go with either structure. You don't want to talk in sound bites necessarily, specifically, literally, politician, but you do want to think about sound bites as you're creating your content. You want to make sure that you've given the editor the opportunity to carve you out and you've gotten your thought all the way through. So in your answer to some of your questions, you want to make sure that you've given them about 10 seconds, 15 seconds of an answer so that if they only take one thing, you know that you gave them one piece that they can absolutely use. But if they're doing a longer piece and it's all about you, lucky you. You get a nice little interview piece and it's all in your house, you've got your makeup and all of that. You still want to ask that interviewer, what are they targeting for? How long would they like it to be? And temper yourself as you go through. Now, if you're doing something live in a broadcast at a news station, you will know what the timing is. You also have the stage manager giving you cues, which is helpful, and you know what to do, but you want to make sure that you're getting your pieces out in advance. So what are we going to do at home? We're going to rehearse. Yes, awesome. we're going to rehearse. Because when you're on a set or somebody comes to your house with a camera, you're thinking about anything but, have I figured out my soundbite? You are not thinking that. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I hope my children don't run naked through the living room. Oh my gosh, I hope nothing crashes outside. Oh my gosh, I hope that I don't have a hair coming out of my nose. You're going to be thinking about other things. So you need to make sure that you rehearse it so that you have that tempo. You know your inner intent. And if you're on message for something, you know what that inner intent is related to that message. And then you're going to match that with your outward projection because you've already figured out what you're wearing. You've already figured out your space. You've already figured out your time. So now you are going to present that information clearly and within the time frame that will be edited so that you are seen. Okay? Moving on in action. My favorite. Eye contact. When I started with PBS, one of the comments that I heard most from my audience was that, I feel like you're looking right at me, Miss Lori. You're looking at me and you're talking to me. And they were right, I was. I looked straight through the camera and I looked at all of the children that I had been teaching for years, looked at my own children. And I was able to do that because I memorized the information. In fact, so much so, they didn't believe that I could do it at first because they kept on the teleprompter. The gentleman who sat in the back, lazily scrolling through the scripts. And I said, no, 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 really, I came up in theater. Memorization is my friend. I can do this. Like, yeah, right, whatever. So they kept the man on. It wasn't until day 2 when he was snoring in the back because he was sleeping that they decided to let him go. So everything that I did was memorized because I wanted to be able to look through to my audience. Not look at the camera, but look at my audience. Making that eye contact because we like to be looked at. We like to be looked at. Except when we don't know the answers to things. Then we don't look at it. But in general, people like to be seen. They want to be noticed. It makes you feel validated. So you want to talk directly to your friends. If you're making a video for your site, don't look at the flip camera that's in front of you. Look beyond that. Who is your audience? Who are you aiming for? Have that image in your mind. Hear the cadence. If you're pausing for them to answer, if you're doing a call to action that's saying, well, how do you feel about this? Hear them. Give them that time. And be comfortable because they will feel embraced. They will feel you listening to them. You can use that. You can do it. Start with your mirror, move to your video camera, and then you can post.
Can you do an example of looking through the lens as opposed to looking at the lens and when I'm looking at you?
It's about your mind.
It's a mind.
It's a mind thing. Because if I'm looking at you and I'm thinking about something else, then I slightly glaze over because I'm thinking of the donut that I can see in my head. But if I'm looking at you and I'm making a connection to you and I'm trying to draw you in, then I'm really looking at you because you are what's in my mind. So it's about the mind. Again, I keep telling, it's all the work, it's all you. It's all you. There's no shortcut. There's nobody else to do it for you. It's all you. But once you've done it, there you have it. It's that inner intent. Again, when you're looking through the camera, if you know who you are, you know what your objective is. When you look through, you will know who you're talking to. Because you've got this. You know. Now, when you're doing an interview or talking to someone in person, whether on camera or in person, you want to make sure that you're quiet because listening is important because everybody also wants to be heard. But if you're listening, you don't want to just listen in a frozen state because then people start to feel uncomfortable and think that you're not really hearing them. So you want to listen with your eyes. So I'm listening to you and I might change my head or, oh, without any exclamation that's verbal. You want to give them that feedback. We need that feedback. And it's not about being fake. I mean, I can put it on for you because I can demonstrate. But it's not about being fake. It's about really hearing what somebody's saying and having a natural physical response to it. Now, if you're having an interview on camera, it's not that it's being fake, but some of it is going to be slightly orchestrated because because you've practiced, and you looked in the mirror, and you were videotaping, you know that, okay, I cannot turn all the way like that, so I can't, because my outfit, and then it'll open up, and the cleavage on this, can't do that. So you have already figured that out. So you will be limited by what you did in your rehearsal, but instead of thinking of it as a limitation, think of it as I understand where the edge of the earth is, and I'm not falling off of it today, I'm frolicking in the center. So you know where your parameters are, and you listen within those parameters. I did it. Sure. I just did a critique. I do for some of my clients. I critique videos of other interviews that they've done. So I had one that was sent to me that was actually for the Today Show. And she's mortified by it, but because it's the Today Show, she's still posting it because, you know, it's the Today Show. But she's mortified because she didn't understand that there were 2 cameras shooting. And when you're doing bigger events, there will generally be 2 cameras because they always want to have cutaways. And then if some camera fails or doesn't get a shot or somebody's picking their nose, they can always not have it. So what she did is she played everything towards that camera and pretty much gave her aspirations to the other. And when she was listening to other people, then she had her hair was positioned, so it was just if she turned ever so slightly, she was just gone. So it was butt and hair. It was not what she was hoping for. Because it'd be different if she had a website written on her ass, but she didn't. She was just there. So you want to be cognizant of what's going on. If I have cameras shooting from here, you're doing something like this that had a table in front, you've got several people going on. You've got this camera's the main camera, and this camera's getting the shot. Well, this is ugly because if you're giving to the main camera, then you are giving butt and hair over there. So I encourage you instead to position yourself this way, and you're still giving to that camera. But over here, even when you're looking at someone, they're still getting something pleasing of you. So it's about knowing the setup. And you've practiced in the mirror, and you've practiced on video, so you know where your angles are. And then you can listen, and even if I'm here, I don't stay in that position the whole time. Well, I might, settle back and cheer, or I give up a hand, or I think, or I even might look away, or somebody's near me, and so therefore I'm also giving a face to that camera, which is nice, because that might be the cutaway they choose. Because you look and go, ah, and you come back. Again, I'm being overly dramatic and being slightly fakey, but what you do on camera will be genuine, because it will be represented by your inner intent, which is matched by your outward projection. But that eye contact is key. It is key to listen and to talk with your eyes. And that's why I was saying about your avatar, please make sure your avatars have your eyes, because that's what most of us connect with, is your eyes. We decide if you're trustworthy, we decide if you're knowledgeable, we decide if you're fun through your eyes. So you want to check in with that. Now moving on, we have, got to circle back. Now this is something that takes a little bit of time of getting used to, because this is about making sure that you can come back to your original intent, even if a question or a conversation leads you slightly off, which they will do, because conversations are generally very authentic and they're happening in the speed of life. And so you get off and say, oh, you're moving off onto a tangent, and then you realize, oh, no, I was supposed to let them know my website, I was supposed to let them know who we are, how we can contact, or I was supposed to let them know that I really needed them to be here at this event. There was something that was your original intent, and you were taking off. So you had to find a way to very comfortably circle back to your original intent without somebody feeling like in a live conversation that you're pitching them hard, and that you're not listening to anything that they say, because all you can think about is pitching, okay? And even though that might be what your inner voice is going, please get the job, please get the job, please get the job, you want to make sure that your interactions with them do not feel so heavy-handed. It's not push marketing. That's what we all say about our social media. We're telling brands, we're telling agencies, no, we're not doing push marketing. It's about conversation. Well, yes, but it is still marketing. We're still doing business. We still have a job in front of us. So we do have to make sure that we circle back to what it is. So you circle back to your intention, or you circle back to your contact information. And the same goes for when you're creating a video. If you're creating a video, it's a PSA, a call to action, if it's something fun, you want to circle back to your intent for making it in the first place and to your contact information. At the end of my videos, I always say, well, for more information, stay tuned to MissLori.tv, and as always, let your smile shine. Circle back to why I was there in the first place. As if you are in a summation with a trial, when they give their summation, they talk about, you tell the audience of jurors what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. It's the same truth with your videos. Okay? Let the audience know what you're going to do, then you do it, and then you tell them what you did, so that they get that repetition. That's how we learn, through repetition. And the same goes for your audience. Now, when you're on camera doing an interview, it can be a little harder. Because reporters have their own objective. Their objective is to find something that's going to be able to bump their fellow reporter, and they're going to get to the top of the line in terms of their story. They want to make it interesting. They don't necessarily want to do for you. They're there to do for them. So they'll ask questions, and you have to find a way to bring yourself back. So I want to ask someone to come up to the mic and give me an interview question. Go ahead, don't run. Come on. Somebody go up to the mic. Just shoot out, ask me any question as if you were interviewing for BlogWorld, and you can go ahead and ask me a question. You can bend it down.
I didn't feel short enough. There we go.
Hi.
Hi, so wait, give me, what kind of question
Go
did you want me to
any
give
kind
you?
of question. I don't have to know about it. You ask me a question, and I'm going to circle it back so that I make sure that I get my intention out.
Okay. Hey, Lori, what's your biggest goal in coming to BlogWorld Expo?
Oh, well, BlogWorld Expo has been fantastic because I get to connect with so many people. And that's really what I'm all about with MissLori.tv. It's about making those connections. It's vital, and that's what I try to do through my video work and through my work as a consultant at MissLori.tv. It's about connections, and that's what BlogWorld is all about. So, you want to
Thank
see,
you.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate you playing. And your parting gift. So you want to make sure that you circle back. So this is a great time to play with friends, and you get them to ask you wild questions. I mean, I've had interviewers take me way out into left field. We have a big statue of Marilyn Monroe in downtown Chicago. Big old legs, just like that, because we're like that in Chicago. 30-foot tall Marilyn Monroe with her legs spread wide and her dress flying up. Everybody who was interviewed for about a week, I don't care what it was you were doing, if you just passed the bill, if you just won an award, everybody was asked about Marilyn's legs. Everyone. What do you do with that? You have to find a way. You have to give it some sort of credence. I said, well, you know, in Chicago we're very curious, and that's what I deal with is curiously motivated children, and so I celebrate that through Miss Lori's campus, and we all are about curiosity, and we dig deep, and that's what we do here in Chicago, too. What am I going to say? We really like looking up women's dresses. So that's what no, we don't answer the question. Stick with your intent. And make sure in your intent that you're also throwing out there a place for your audience to look further into you. Because you may not get that button from an interview. Most likely you won't, where they'll say, and how can people find you now? And in fact, if they say anything, they'll say, go to our website at ABC7 Chicago and you'll find more information. And that story isn't going to be evergreen. It's not going to be there the whole time. Your information isn't going to be there forever. So you need to make sure you've sewn it into the body of the interview, into the body of your video, and into the body of your conversation with someone. You're going to give them their card, and they're going to give you your card, and you're going to exchange, but you want to make sure that you've made an indelible imprint on them, and that you've said the name of your website or said your name, because we're all getting so much information. Say it a few times, circle back So you remind them without beating them over the head, but still planting that seed of recognition. But that's a good one to rehearse. Oh, I went back. There we go. Nail it shut. Nail it shut. And this can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. For me, as I said, I end my videos, I always say for more information, but my nail is let your smile shine on. That's a tagline that's branded to me. Everybody knows about it from the children that I've worked with. I have a song, I have interstitials that run, and it's always about let your smile shine on. So I end everything with it because it's also the thing that people seem to most recognize me for is for my smile. Not a bad thing. I like that. So I know that my community resonates with my smile, and I feed into that, and I'm comfortable with that, marrying back to my brand and to my intent, and I find a way to nail it shut and pull all of those pieces together. Now, when you're doing a video with your brand, you're nailing it shut not just with the subject matter of that particular video, you're nailing it shut with your brand. So it goes back to knowing who you are, knowing what you're doing, why you're there in the first place, knowing what your brand is. And then, when you come to the end of any piece, conversation, video, interview, you can nail it shut because you know who you are in your own shoes. So you find a way to let people know. You want to repeat your message, you want to convey it, you want to own it, you want to live it, because you got this. Why? Because you rehearsed, because you researched yourself, because you know what you're about, you know why you're occupying this space, you know why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing in that particular moment. You've got this. You own it, you're living it, you're living la vida loca, and you're up here and you're taking the world by storm, and that's exactly what you're doing. As I said before, and I believe it so wholeheartedly, this is the new world, and you all are pioneers. And you get to forge your future. How amazing is that? You are carving it out right here and right now. So leave it to other people. Embrace your moment and your opportunity, and take your action and nail it shut. I really want you to know that you can do this. I want you to know and to believe that it's all within your hands and it's within your skin. Because this is just about you. All of the extras, all of the little techniques and finding light, knowing how to balance yourself on an interview and how to counterbalance questions, all of those are things that you can learn. But you have to start with something, and that something is inside. So I want you, as I said at the beginning, I wanted you to get uncomfortable so that you can get comfortable. I want you to fight through any preconceived notions you have about what you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to look like. Forget it. There is no mold. There's no mold. You are making the mold. You are creating the mold that maybe down the line will be repeated. But right now, you're the original. So figure out what that original is, create your intent, and then share it with the world. And that is the end of the presentation, and I'll be happy to take questions. Come on up to the mic if you got a question. Awesome.
So this is kind of a technical question, but
Right.
I know you have a background as a singer, and using your voice as a singer involves a lot of like breathing techniques.
Yes.
And one thing I notice is that people, myself, even though I do a lot of public speaking, but whenever you're put on the spot when maybe weren't feeling completely comfortable, you tend to run out of breath.
Yes.
And I see that
Yes.
happens to a lot of people, right? And even if you think, oh well, I'm usually pretty comfortable speaking in public. So do you have any techniques for not running out of breath when you maybe were caught a little bit where you were nervous?
Caught unawares and
Yeah.
caught nervous. What happens generally is that you start breathing up here, and you're not breathing diaphragmatically, okay? So don't close yourself off, because what you do is you close off your lungs and you're not using there, and so you're going to try to breathe through your chest, which is crazy because there's no lungs up there. You want to keep yourself open, But again, it's about slowing your mind down will slow your breathing down. You want to go back through and remember why you're there. Remember, you know who you are. You want to remember what your intent is, and then be comfortable. I see you there. You want to be comfortable with that moment. And if you're having to think of something, that's okay. Just slow down how you're speaking. Take a moment, maybe ask a question back so that you buy a little time. But you've practiced in your mirror, you've videotaped yourself, so you've found ways to be comfortable with those thought moments. And you found ways to physically give yourself space to come up with the next thing you want to say. Yes?
Hi. I tend to talk too much. My wife tells me all the time. And so I'm not going to go on with that, but I'm just going to ask, what can you do about that? Because it's like I lost them somewhere, or I repeat the same things, and I need to work on that. So
some of that is because we try to fill space, because we're unsure about why we're there, or unsure about whether or not we're worthy enough to be occupying that space. So without sounding like a drone, it's about rehearsing, and it's about researching you. The more comfortable you get with who you are and what you're trying to do and what you want to give to your audience, not just get from them, but what you want to give to your audience, the slower you will be, because you don't need as many words to explain who you are, because you know who you are. We use a lot of words when we're not really sure what it is that we want to say, because we're not really sure what we want to do, and we're really not sure why we're there, and so we just keep talking because we're really afraid if we stop talking, everybody will run away. So, when you know who you are, when you know what you want, when you know what you're trying to convey, you'll slow down. Yes?
You're good.
My mother thanks you.
Hi. Sometimes I find it valuable to read off a teleprompter just because it allows me to phrase things a certain way, and if I do get in a situation where I start racing or I start losing my train of thought, it keeps it I just don't have to think. I can just master my technique. What are some strategies you can give so it doesn't look like I'm reading off a teleprompter? That's where I struggle.
It's a tough one because literally your eyes are moving. I don't care what you're doing, your eyes are moving. And so you're never fully going to be able to cross through. But there's no shame in using a teleprompter. But again, it's about practice. You also want to make sure that you're not trying to put too many words going on, and you want to make sure that the spacing is so that you can practically see two sentences in front of you, so that you're doing those two sentences, and then it's going to slowly come up so that you can keep your eyes on as level of a plane as possible. So when you have to go use somebody else's teleprompter, you want to be able to explain to them, all right, I want it in this font, and I need this kind of spacing, and I want it in this speed. You have to know so that you can tell them, so that you're always in command of what you're doing.
Right.
Any other questions?
Did you go last night's keynote at the end?
I didn't.
Oh.
I was sleeping.
Hi, I have a question about the 2-minute videos and
Yes.
then the circle back. So you have a beginning, middle, and end
Yes.
in 2 minutes.
Yes.
Do you have any great tips for how you can do that?
It's about your content. And as I said, whether it's 15 seconds or 2 minutes, you don't want to try to cram an entire encyclopedia into it. So you want to make sure that you've pulled out and you've decided in your content that it's something palatable, something that your audience can masticate and be able to process in that time frame. And sometimes it means that you have to videotape a few takes to see, oh yeah, that's too much, I can't do that. So I'm not going to use that one, let me go on. And I've done that on many occasions. I tend to not edit at all because I have 3 children at a time. So I will shoot, but you're generally not seeing the only take I did. You're just seeing the one I chose. But I don't edit them, I shoot them straight through. But oftentimes it's in doing, and because that's the way I like to do. I don't like to write it out. I like to speak so I can get that natural conversational cadence. But I will do it a few times to figure out, oh yeah, I liked that phrase, that was good, but you know what, that's too many points, let me take that one out. And you'll find, and I can do it much faster now. Generally there's only an extra take because there's a train going through or something else happens, or like I said, naked children in the living room. But But for you, with practicing, you'll find your way, you'll find your content, you'll find your rhythm, and you'll find you. Any other questions?
I work with a lot of corporate video panels, and a lot of times, and we do back-to-back recordings at conferences, and so a lot of times I have maybe 5 minutes to get my speakers in and get them comfortable and coach them. And a lot of them are, executives, and so they're good with their talking points, but they're not always fantastic with keeping their energy up,
Yes.
and they're not always great with cheating forward toward the camera if we've got 4 or 5 people on a panel. Do you have any suggestions for how to really engage people and get them going? I try to keep my energy up when they enter the room and kind of get them going, but I think that's one thing, especially in the corporate world, that's really difficult.
It is difficult, and you're not going to turn them into fantastic speakers overnight. I think it's always great to offer up video references. If you've scrolled through YouTube and watched different people, and you found somebody that you think is good, and I would suggest finding somebody that would be similar to the person that you're pitching to. So don't use the same video for everybody because they won't take it in the same way. People want to see themselves. So if you're dealing with an executive, find another executive that you think did it right. And you send them those emails, let them watch it, send them a couple, don't send them just one, so that they can see it before they even come to you, if possible, so that they get a sense of what you're going for, because when you're articulating it to them, if they have no frame of reference, they don't know what the heck you're talking about. They have no idea. But then giving them some very specific benchmarks is important. Minimizing their space is good, because if they have too much space, then they don't know where to go, and they get really scared, and sometimes they'll just stand really still, because they have so much space and they're afraid to go into it. So give them the sense of where the edge of the world is so that they can frolic in the center. And then as far as their energy and keeping connected, if you have any say over how many points they put in each of their slides, keep it simple, keep it less in each slide as possible, because otherwise they'll get into the habit of reading the slide over and they keep going and they're staying monotone and they're giving lots of information that there might be in fact something that would be good for you, but you can't hear it because it's all on one note. But if they have to do just 1 or 2 points, they have to go through the process of physically feeling the slide change, which forces them to physically take a little moment, and then they go into another thing, and it helps the audience as well. Any other questions?
What part of Chicago are you from?
I live in Chinatown, right in the heart of the city, and I've been there for 10 years, but I am a Wisconsin girl. I came up that way, and I perform all over the country, and I have a CD and a DVD and sing, as well as do the marketing for everyone, and consulting and speaking, but anything that involves people, my personal
I
favorite.
have one comment. I on my Android phone, I can talk to text, and so I'll see something and I'll say something without thinking, and because I didn't have it all ready and like rehearsing or practicing. What am I going to say before I say it? So when I say it, it comes out right. And how many times delete? Sorry, delete. So.
And that's it. Don't be afraid of that. If anything, rehearsal is just that. It's not a final performance, and you're not generally not under anyone's time frame but your own. So just live in that moment and be okay with it. Just like I said about holding up that mirror and being okay with that image, being able to sit there and look at yourself without cringing or laughing or fluffing it off, being able to be comfortable with that moment. It takes time. You didn't automatically become, your brilliant whizzes on your blogs or in your work with social media. It didn't happen overnight. You had to figure out how to frame your text and frame your 140 character tweets that turned into 120 so somebody could retweet it. You had to work at that. So cut yourself some slack in terms of moving into this new age of presenting yourself. Go ahead.
Real fast, when you are asked to speak somewhere, to do something with all of the experience you've had, and people say, what are your credentials for what you're doing? What is your answer for you specifically?
For me, well, I'll give the example of this event. This event, I was at Blog Her representing Tropicana doing something else, and I came across Deb, and she was a fan of mine and her children, and she said, oh, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm being a spokesperson, and I'm trying to get people corralled to do things. She brought me over to Rick. We started talking. We started talking about the state of conferences. I said, you know what? I just need workshops. I don't understand why people don't do workshops. People need to get up, and it needs to be tactile and tangible. And he said, well, what are you doing with that? So it just came out of a normal conversation. I had already had speaking credentials, but it came organically out of a need. He asked me something. I gave him my thoughts about it. We kept talking, and that, as we know, was in August, and then they booked me right after that when they had already set other things up. So they made space because they felt it was important and vital that I would bring this information to you all. So hopefully it proves to be important and vital, and that you are able to carry it on and carry it forward and marry that inner intent with the outward projection. Thank you so much.